Right, so what is sciatica? I get asked that all the time. Reception get asked that all the time. Do we treat it? So I thought I'd talk about it today just because we get asked about it all the time. Do we treat sciatica? And then people come and then they ask what it is. So it's basically pain in the leg that's coming from the back, usually. And it is often accompanied by some kind of nerve symptom. And that can be pins and needles, numbness, even people describe creepy crawly feelings, something like that. And the pain itself can be shooting, it can be just there and dull, but it's usually really strong and it's usually fairly constant as well. And I've even had people say to me, if you said to me that by chopping my leg off it'd take this pain away, I'd happily let you do it. So I said, well, we don't have to do that, so yeah. So what causes sciatica? It's very commonly what's called a disc herniation that I'll cover in a minute, and that's why I've got these models. It can be something that's made the spine inflame and therefore that's putting some pressure on the nerve. And it can also be something called stenosis, which is more of a degenerative condition, a degenerative bony condition. So that's less common and more common in the, I'd say, 70s plus. So going on to the most common cause then, it's usually the disc, and the disc herniates. So you hear of people saying, I've slipped a disc, I've got a disc prolapse. And the disc herniation is exactly the same thing. So the disc, usually, this is a little diagram I've done here. This shows here the bones of the spine and stacked on the top, and this is a side view. So these are the bones of the spine, and then in between each of the bones of the spine, we've got discs. And so just to show you what can happen to the disc, so this is showing the yellow bit in the middle, that's called the nucleus pulposus, and then the orange bit around the outside, that's called the annulus. The annulus is really strong and resists twisting torsional strains, and the nucleus pulposus in the middle is more for your compression. So your body weight, the weight of gravity pushing us towards the floor, it's that shock absorber. So a normal disc looks like this. And as you can see on this diagram, the disc height and the patency of this nice curve here and this one here from the bone above and the bone below, this creates a hole here, and that is called a foramen. And through those holes come your nerves, your peripheral nerves from the centre of your spine. So really you want a nice big gap there so that the nerves can come through. Now this one here shows a bulging disc, so that's where your disc is squashed. And but the annulus is still around the nucleus pulposus, it's still in there, and it's not really having much an effect on that hole there. This next diagram shows what a herniated disc looks like, otherwise called a prolapsed disc, otherwise called, I hate that when people say it, a slip disc, because it doesn't really slip actually, but it's just what people say. So you can see that now the nucleus in the middle is bulging to the point where it's closing off that hole somewhat, isn't it? And that's to varying degrees on people. And then this last diagram shows that over time, if you've had stuff going on with your disc like this, then it becomes degenerated, and this middle stuff goes and it's replaced by gas, and that's what degeneration is. And the disc thins as well, so it's really small. So that means that that bone is closer to that bone now. And as you can see from this blue area here, that's just showing that now the bone hardens, so you can actually get bone pain because you've lost that shock absorbency there. And also the bones can kind of grow around this hole here, and then that's another reason why that hole can get smaller as well. So this is your spine. This is the spine from the back, showing the bones and the pelvis at the bottom, and from the front, each of the bones with the discs in between all the way down the spine. And then from the side you can see those holes here where these nerves are exiting. Now these nerves go down your limbs, so the top ones will go down your arms, the bottom ones will go down your legs. And the sciatic nerve is actually made up from the bottom three nerves that all come together, and then they come together and then they go down your leg. This is quite a good model of actually the disc itself and shows the disc bulging. You can see that just by putting pressure on the front, that bulges at the back there and gets in the way of this nerve exiting here. So that is to do with spinal flexion. So bending your back repetitively puts pressure on the disc at the back, and then over time this can happen. But it usually just stays there. And then after a while the body is trying to absorb that bit and heal you. So I know what you're going to ask now, can it be cured? Can you basically get rid of my pain? So the answer is yes. Now, we have what's called conservative management, and then we have surgery. Now, surgery should always be the last option. Whenever somebody comes to me with pain that bad and nerve symptoms, and maybe they're lacking in a reflex when we test it, they get really worried and really concerned that maybe then surgery is the only thing for them. But what we find with physiotherapy management and pain management with medication, that over a few weeks, 2-3 months later, people start to feel a lot better. So the kind of surgery that you can have is microdiscectomy. And what studies have found that if you had a microdiscectomy or you just didn't have a microdiscectomy, then a year after you'd probably be in the same boat anyway. The only reason for having surgery is that if your neural signs, such as your pins and needles or your numbness, get worse, and that is an indication for surgery. There can be other ones as well, so things like frequency of having to go to the toilet, not being able to hold your urine, that's quite a bad sign, so that can be an indication for surgery. But most of the time we can manage it. So we're painting on the sciatic nerve now, show you it's coming out. We're going to paint it at the 3 levels where it comes out here, in between the vertebra, where the holes are, the little foramen. So these are now the peripheral nerves exiting the spine from the spinal cord, coming out from the spine. And then they all join together. Then this is now where it starts to exit the spine, starts to penetrate usually through behind these muscles. So that's the glutes and the piriformis muscle. And the piriformis muscle is coming across here, and it will go, but on some people it comes under it, and some people it comes over it, and some people think that they've got piriformis syndrome, but most of the time sciatica is not caused by piriformis syndrome. It's caused by disc problems. So it's making its way now through the glute muscles. Quite a lot of people get pain only starting from the actual glute muscles, or even here now where we're here. Quite often people will point just there and say, my pain starts here. They won't even say it starts up here. It usually starts somewhere in the glute or somewhere just under the glute in the top of the thigh. So the sciatic nerve is going along the back of the leg, and it's supplying the hamstring muscles. And it splits at this point, goes round the side of the calf, all the way down the side of the calf. This is the perineal branch now. And these are the muscles that turn your feet out. So sometimes the compression can cause weakness of the foot. Going down through the calf muscle, which happens to be your main muscle of power. Propelling you forwards as you push your foot into the ground. So like I said before, you can have foot weakness, all because of what's going on higher up in the spine. Okay. So this is showing the bulging disc now, pressing on the sciatic nerve, a bit like in the model here. And that's how you get the leg pain, because there's pressure on that nerve. Sometimes the pressure isn't constant, it comes and goes depending on your positions. And then other times it is constant, the pain. And what we want the body to do is we want the body to reabsorb this prolapse disc here, this bulging disc, and we want it to completely be reabsorbed by the body so that it'll take the pressure off the sciatic nerve. So what we do as physios, we prescribe exercises to help that. We tell you lots of do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts, so do for trying to help your circulation in the area and keep you going and keep you strong. Don'ts, so that you don't be putting any more pressure on this disc that's already under a lot of pressure. People quite often say as well they're worse in the morning when they get out of bed. That's because in the night these discs rehydrate, so you're actually a centimetre taller in the morning than you are at the end of the day. And then as the day goes on, with the fact that we are being squashed by gravity, then you're a little bit smaller by the end of the day. So that's why your symptoms can be worse in the morning, because you've rehydrated in the night, you've had no pressure on it. And so in the morning you come to get up and you're putting pressure on like this straight away that's already been repressurised because you've had your body weight off it, and that's why symptoms are often worse in the morning. So other things we can do as physios are we can help you, like I said, with the exercise, but we can also help you with pain management. So if needs be, we'll write to your doctor and tell the doctor what we think is going on with you, and the doctor will know the best kind of pain management medication to offer you. And then we can also offer you acupuncture, where we do it once a week for up to 3 months, sometimes a bit longer, some people need a bit longer, and that will really, really help your pain. So combined with acupuncture, medication from the doctors, following your do's and don'ts, and then following all that advice, then often you take the pressure off the nerve and you feel a lot better. And people have told me in the past that the pain is that bad that they said that they'd happily have their leg chopped off, it would take their pain away. And it's a bit drastic, and I say you don't need to do that. And most people will be better within a year. It sounds like a long time. You won't have pain all this time. The 70% of people are better in about 3 or 4 months with good management, and that's where we come in.